I want to say good morning, everyone. My name is Jerry Shockey. I want to welcome everyone to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I oversee all the youth and educational programs here, and we are excited to be able to offer to you guys our Heart of the Hall of Famer series featuring Pro Football Hall of Famer Mr. Paul Krause. And some of you have connected before. Actually, both schools. John Marshall is new, and Southside just did one last week for the first time with us. So the real idea, as you guys might know, the real idea and premise behind this is to convey what it took to get in the Hall of Fame beyond just the athletic ability. We know that our Hall of Famers are obviously great examples of athleticism, but what you might not realize is that at the heart of what made them great is their character. Because one thing that can be said about our Hall of Famers is that their God-given ability didn't lie in professional football. They would have gone on to be Hall of Famers, quote unquote, in some other life endeavor. Whether it's the very best, pastor, plumber, whatever it might have been, teacher, whatever it might have been. In many cases, most of our Hall of Famers have gone on to some amazing careers after their playing days. And Mr. Krause is an example of that, as you'll hear me share a little bit about his bio here in just a moment. So we're excited that you guys have the opportunity to speak with Mr. Krause and ask him questions about what obstacles he faced, what barriers, what advice he have, what character traits do you think are most important to being a leader? All those types of questions, you guys have the opportunity to ask him here today. So we're excited to be able to present this opportunity to you guys to be able to do that. So before we get started with Mr. Krause's opening remarks and his introduction and everything, there are definitely some folks that we have to thank that help make this broadcast possible. And first of all, we have to thank Jeannie and Jody there at Dakota County. They are the folks that are hosting Mr. Krause at their county office there. They have the technology there, so it worked out perfectly. And thank both those the two best ladies in Dakota County. I want to say thank you. It's been real easy, real smooth, and appreciate your support and making this connection possible. We also have to thank our friends at E-Tech Ohio and Columbus. They are the ones that allow all these multi-point connections.
Oh, yeah, I see it. She was in the corner.
I'm hearing somebody come in here. Is that Rose?
Yes.
Okay, if you guys go ahead and mute your mics, I'm glad you guys got connected, Rose. Glad your power got back up. If you go ahead, there might be a little button on the middle of your microphone. If you go ahead and mute that until, is there a button there?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, if you want to go ahead and mute your microphone until we call upon you guys, we're just starting the introductions. Perfect, thank you very much. Again, we want to thank those folks at E-Tech Ohio and Columbus that are helping bridge all these calls for us and connect them all. Without them, it wouldn't be possible. So Josh and Mark and Paul, thank you for all your support and expertise in making this possible. We have to thank the teachers that are involved here today at the three schools. Obviously, without your scheduling and preparation with the students, this wouldn't be possible as well. And then last but definitely not least, we need to recognize the schools and the students that are in the schools. Because you're the ones that have done the work. I see with Rhodes there, I see you have the sheets of paper in front of you. I think you got your questions prepared there. That's awesome. So we know you guys have done the work, done a little research on Mr. Krause's background, and we're excited for some awesome questions here today as I've seen you guys submit those by email. So thank you very much. But what we'd like to do is give the opportunity for each school to kind of give a little shout out. So not only can Mr. Krause see where you guys are coming from, but so all the other schools that are tuned in can see where you guys are coming from. So when I call upon your school, if you want to go ahead and unmute your microphone and give a shout out, show some cool school spirit, whatever you want to do. So that means teachers in your classrooms, close your doors. I apologize for allowing your kids to scream in the classroom. I see Rhodes is in a library, so I apologize for allowing your students to yell in the library for just a second here. But if we can start off with John Marshall, if you want to go ahead and unmute your microphones and give a little shout out, go ahead. John Marshall, Cleveland, Ohio.
What up? John Marshall.
You guys can do better than that. Let's try that again.
John Marshall.
Right, that's pretty weak, John Marshall. We'll have to try that again here in just a moment. But go ahead and mute your microphones there, John Marshall. We're going to go from Cleveland to Elmira, New York. Let's hear Southside High School.
Finley, Adam Reaver, Austin Voorhees, Zach Wolcott.
That was even weaker than John Marshall.
Dylan Davenport.
You have the announcements going on in the background. I hear that. Good timing, right?
1 of 4 now.
So thank you, Elmira. Go ahead and mute your microphones. And let's go to, they just got connected and they're in the library. So let's go to Rhodes High School. Can you show both those schools up?
Rhodes.
Okay, little better. But nonetheless, we need to work on this with you three schools. But go ahead and mute your microphones there at Rhodes. We appreciate all of you tuning in, and we're excited to get this program started. But let me introduce our featured speaker here for today. And we'll remind all the schools to make sure to keep your microphones muted until we call upon you. So go ahead and, there you go. Thank you. So what I'll do is introduce our featured speaker here today. And that's Pro Football Hall of Famer, Mr. Paul Krause. He was born in Flint, Michigan. He was the Redskins' #2 draft pick in 1964. He had an outstanding rookie year, to say the least. He led the league with 12 interceptions, and he was also named All-Pro his rookie season. He retired as history's all-time, now get this, when you start thinking about, the Ed Reeds and the Troy Polomalus and all those folks, he retired as history's all-time interception leader. So if you guys look at the all-time interception leader, and go in the NFL.com or something and look that statistic up, you will see Mr. Paul Krause's name is at the top of any other player that's ever played in the National Football League. He's got 81 career interceptions. He was traded to the Vikings for a player and a draft pick in 1968. He played in 8 Pro Bowls. He was All-NFL 4 times, All-Eastern Conference in 1964 and 1965. He was All-NFC 5 times. He started at free safety in 4 Super Bowls and then in 5 NFL NFC championship games. Now, what we'd like to do is recognize our Hall of Famers both for their on-the-field accomplishments, but I think what you'll hear in this is Mr. Krause is an entrepreneur. You'll hear a lot about how much he's achieved, kind of a Hall of Fame, I guess you could say, off the field as well. He's been a county commissioner in Dakota County since 1995. He also owns an ice cream shop in Lakeville, Minnesota, and I come to find out that during the summer months, if you go there to that ice cream shop, it's not too unlikely that you wouldn't see Mr. Krause flipping burgers during the summertime, serving their guests. His past endeavors include he was a real estate developer for commercial and residential, in which he bought and sold small businesses. He was a past owner of a number of golf courses as well. Now, the other area that we like to recognize our Hall of Famers, because I think when you start talking about those 6 core pillars and you start talking about caring and citizenship, this is where you'll find our Hall of Famers really excel as well. And again, Mr. Krause is a great example of this, some of the charitable things that they do in their lives. He has made numerous USO trips with NFL players and Hall of Famers. Last year he made the trek to Kuwait to speak and thank troops for their service. He holds a Hall of Fame Player Classic, which is their annual golf charity fundraisers for various organizations. He's actively involved in his church, Berean Baptist, on various boards and committees. He is a part of various youth sports associations for hockey, baseball, and of course, football. He's also, some of his spare time, I guess you could say, and all the things that he does, he's built a custom Hall of Fame motorcycle that has the signatures of many Hall of Famers, and is currently working on a restore of a 1949 car as well, 1949 Ford. But I'll just show you guys real quick. If I switch over the video here, you can see you guys see that image of that bike that let me see your heads nod there in Cleveland. You guys see the bike there pretty sweet bike. Obviously see the Hall of Fame logos. You can kind of see some of the signatures. I know it's a little bit small for you. But before we ask him, so you can check that out if you guys ever want to go to hofbike.com, you can check those photos out. But before we introduce him and ask him for his opening remarks, what I would like to do is show you guys a quick video on his playing career.
Defensive back Paul Krause wasted no time making a name for himself, intercepting 2 passes in his first professional game. Krause ended up leading the NFL with 12 interceptions his rookie season. He had a knack for being in the right place at the right time. Krause picked off 81 passes during his illustrious career, a record that still stands today. But he was more than just a pass thief. He was also a student of the game and a highly skilled opportunist.
So if all the schools can unmute your microphones for a second and join me in giving a warm round of applause to Pro Football Hall of Famer, Mr. Paul Krause. And let's go ahead and mute your microphones at all the sites. And Mr. Krause, the microphone is yours to share your opening remarks.
Well, thank you, Jerry. It's very it's my pleasure to be with the different schools here. I go back a long time in speaking to different schools and events, but this is just a little different for me, and I want all of the students. We're going to spend some time today. If you have a question of any kind, just let me know, and I'll try to answer it because I won't hold back. Just so long that there's no reporters out there who are going to report everything that I say. But I'm just kidding with that. But it's really great to be in front of you, just discussing how it is that through my life, the things that I've done, and you can also go back into your lives and seeing the good points and the bad points, and we can discuss all of that because in our lives today, everything is not as rosy as you want it to be, but it's not as bad as you want it to be either. But through this project, we're discussing what character is, and I believe that a person's character is really the things that he is made of, the things that he has been taught, things that his parents have taught him or her, things how you have grown up in your early years, your life in your family, your life in your school, your life in your church, whatever those things that you have done, that's what you're going to become. If you run around with good kids, you'll probably be a good kid. If you run around with bad kids, you are like the people that you run with. And we look for kids that have the good character of respect of your students, respect of your friends, respect of your teachers, your parents, whatever. And I think it's very important that you students learn that you need their respect, but you also respect others. So through your times growing up and everything, through high school, college, and into your eventual careers, if you have the respect of others and you respect those others, you will do very well. Jerry,
okay,
should we go on with questions?
Yep, that's what we'll do here. Let me just go over the format with the schools. Again, just a reminder to keep your microphones muted during the program until I call upon your school. And then even after you ask your question, if you can go ahead and make sure to mute your microphone immediately after you ask the question to Mr. Krause, just to make sure that we eliminate any background noise or anything like that, so we're not interrupting his responses throughout this. But we're going to go in the order of John Marshall, Southside, and then James Rhodes. And I want you guys to think about this just here for just a moment. Again, I kind of just talked about this at the beginning. As you guys have, there have been about 25,000 players that have played in the NFL now since it started in 1920 here in Canton, Ohio. Out of that, there are only 273 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And out of those 273, I think only 230 or so are players. The others are coaches and contributors. So you are talking to one of the greatest players ever. And if you're looking at people in the secondary, whoever you might admire, whether it's whether it's a cornerback like Darrelle Revis or whether it's a safety like Troy Polamalu or Ed Reed or something like that, they hope to be in Mr. Krause's shoes someday and be enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I'd imagine if they peered into his background off the field as well, how successful he's been with his life off the field, that they would want to aspire to be like him off the field as well. So you guys have the opportunity to ask one of the greatest players ever, to ask him what he encountered. Because the one thing we will try to convey here today is that he was just like you. Now, obviously, growing up in the 50s or whatever it might have been, times were definitely different. He faced different obstacles in life, but nonetheless, he faced obstacles just like you guys do. So you'll find that he's just like you. And the one thing you'll see, you might see me throughout, you might see me jotting things down as I'm going. I take notes from this as well. Learning does not stop when you get out of school. I'm 34 years old, And I love doing this program because I get to get advice, free advice from Hall of Famers that have achieved greatness. 25 times now I've been able to. So I take notes, things that I try to apply to my life as well. So it's not just you guys are learning, it's myself as well, and hopefully your teachers and any of the other adults that are in there will be able to learn from this opportunity. So again, I encourage you guys to ask those questions. Now it seems like since we had 3 schools, we had 1 or 2 cancel out because of technical problems. You guys are going to have the opportunity to probably ask, I'm going to guess 5, maybe 6 questions each classroom, and we'll rotate around one by one each way. So we'll do it that way. So let's go ahead to John Marshall, and you can go ahead and start off the program with your first question if you'd like.
Go. Answer it. Corey.
How did you make it through the hard times, whether they were from injury, personal issues, or family?
Okay, I really didn't hear that question. Jerry, did you hear the question?
No, I did not. You have to speak up.
I said, how did you make it through the hard times, whether they were from injury, personal issues, or family? Question mark. Mute.
I still had problems. How did I make it through the hard times with injury and with family?
And personal life.
In my personal life. I was very fortunate to have a good family upbringing. And I'm saying I was very fortunate. I grew up in Flint, Michigan, and if anybody there in the classroom knows anything about Flint, Michigan, it was pretty tough to grow up in Flint, Michigan, just like it is in Cleveland, Ohio. And I was very fortunate to have a mother and father that, sometimes I wasn't very fortunate because they did not, they believed that, that razor strap on that top of my dad's mirror was for one thing, and that was to teach me how to behave. But I respect that. They told me what to do. They showed me how they wanted me to live. They believed that they showed me that I was supposed to be a good person. They believed that when they took me, for instance, they took me to church. I wasn't allowed to leave church. They stayed with me and everything. They showed me how I was supposed to live at home, anywhere away from home, and anything like that. We didn't have very much when I grew up. I was like most of the other kids in junior high and high school. I didn't have a lot of good, nice clothes. I didn't have much to eat. I didn't have a lot of things. I didn't have a bicycle until I was in pro football. My dad promised me I was going to have a bicycle when I was in the 8th grade. I didn't have that because they couldn't afford it. But eventually through going to high school, then college, and then into pro football, I finally got my bicycle when I was in pro football. So, I didn't have those types of things. But there again, my parents taught me that, if I couldn't afford it, I really didn't need those things then. I could, acquire them maybe later. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Anybody
yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any other questions?
Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Genesis, if you have another one. John Marshall.
How did you persevere through all your hard times in your life?
How did I persevere?
Well, that's my question.
Persevere through my hard times? You know what?
And what were your hard times if you had any? And what were your hard times if you had any?
What were my hard times when I had any? Well, let me tell you this. During my early years in junior high and high school, I was just like you kids. We didn't have much. I don't know if you have, I mean, like I told you, it was tough growing up. I didn't have any new clothes. I didn't have any good shoes. I didn't have any, I wore hand-me-downs from my brothers, and that were older than me. But let me give you a hard time that I persevered. 17 years ago, my wife was in a serious car accident. She was in a coma for 7 months. Today she is brain injured. She can't walk. She is handicapped. She has an IQ of about, maybe a fourth or fifth grader. But through my times, and she's still alive. She doesn't live with me. She's in assisted living. But through how my parents raised me and how I learned to live in my early years, that helped me get through the problems that I had with my wife in the past 17 years. And this has been tough. She actually died on the operating table. They shocked her back to life. She is not in good health today. Like I said, she's brain injured, but she's still alive, and we have to work to get through those types of things. And sure, I've had a great professional athletic career. I was a very good high school player in baseball, football, basketball, and ran track. But sometimes we have things that we cannot control, and through the upbringing that my mom and my dad gave me, I learned to live with bad times, like the one that I just gave you the example of. Anybody else have a question? Life's not easy. Life is not easy, but you can get through it. Go ahead. You have a question. The young man in the gray shirt, were you going to ask me a question? No?
Go ahead.
Yeah, the Samuel.
Wait, who?
Okay, let's go ahead. Mr. Krause is taking my moderating responsibilities. I need something to do here, Mr. Krause. Come on. Let's go from John Marshall. Let's go to Elmira, New York, and let's go to. I see the big group of students there. If you guys have a couple questions, go ahead.
What was the best advice you were ever given?
Elmira? Okay, we got a bunch of athletes in Elmira.
Yeah, this is our football team, right?
What was the best advice you were ever given?
What's the best advice I was ever given? Oh, that's pretty tough for me to answer. Probably, this sounds kind of hokey, and you've all heard of it, but, you got to treat each other like you want to be treated. You have to have respect for other people. I don't care if it's people on your football team or it's people, other people that you might not even like in your school. You have to respect all of them. I've always said to be a friend, you've got to, if you want friends, you got to be a friend. And so, if a person in your high school is not an athlete or something like that, you have to treat everybody like you want to be treated.
Go ahead if you have another one there, Southside.
Do you have a saying or motto that you live your life by?
Do I have a saying or a motto that I live my life by? I don't have a saying per se, but I come from a very religious family, and I'm very proud of that. My mom and dad, did a very, very good job of taking us to our churches and staying with us and giving us, a basic background through religion. And I don't care what church you go to, but I think everybody should go to a church. And it doesn't matter whether you're Catholic, Baptist, whatever, Islam, or I don't care what church you go to, but have a faith in God. And I think that that's my background. And I know that I can't control everything that happens, but I have to have something that I can go to, somebody or something that I can go to when I need help. And I hope that answers your question. Another question, guys. Do you have any questions on sports?
What advice can you give to a young person that is clearly struggling?
What advice do I give to a young person that is struggling? It doesn't matter what you're struggling with. I think that through your friendships, through your teachers, through your family, or your other friends, if you're having a tough time with anything, seek somebody else's advice, somebody that we talked about character, somebody that has good character, somebody that you respect, somebody that you trust, and go to them and say, hey, I have a problem. Can you help me deal with it? Go to somebody of good character. Maybe your minister at church. It could be your teacher. It could be a friend of the family. I don't care who, but go to somebody with good character that you can absolutely respect and trust.
Mr. Krause brings up a great point, and I don't know why we've gotten to this, but when we all need someone, no matter what, we all in our lives, whether it's need someone to lean on, whether it's our parents, whether it's our pastor, whether it's our friends, whether it's our teachers, whether it's a neighbor down the street, a best friend, whoever it might be. But what strikes me as odd today is that in sports, if you have something you're struggling with, let's say you're a basketball player and you're having trouble with the free throw line, what do? You go shoot 100 free throws after practice to work on that. You go to your coach and you ask him, hey, I need to work on free throws. But for whatever reason, when it comes to in the classroom, we don't ask for that help because I don't know if it's because it's thought to be uncool or whatever the reason might be. To me, I really feel this way, is that by you guys going to ask, that's a sign. Some people see that as a sign of weakness. That's a sign of strength. Understanding what what you might not do so well in, and having the courage to go and say, hey, I'm having problems with this, whether it's a math course, whether it's free throw shooting, whether it's football, whether it's something personally, whatever it might be, and asking those folks, those people that are in your life, to help you with those. So it's something I encourage you students, don't be shy to ask those around you. We all, and I'm sure as Mr. Krause shared with his parents, and I'm sure other folks in his life as pastor, as he said he was so heavily involved with his church as well, that there have been a lot of folks that he's leaned upon throughout his life that have helped get him through, as you said, those moments of struggle. So I just encourage you guys, don't be scared to ask. Your teachers are there waiting for you. I mean, if you have a question, if you need help in math or social studies or science, they are there for you, I guarantee it, and willing to help you to get through that. And again, I think that's a sign of strength and not a sign of weakness by asking that. Rhodes, if you have another one, go ahead.
My name is Antonio Lewis, and I go to Rhodes. And my question is, what event did you run in track?
What event did I run in track in high school? Well, I ran 120-yard high hurdles. I did the high jump, I did the long jump, and I did the pole vault. Now, did you want me to tell you how good I was or how bad I was? I won the state championship in pole vault in 1963, I think it was, and that's before the fiberglass pole, and I vaulted 12 feet 8 inches. I high jumped 6'4", and I long jumped 22 feet 10 inches, and I ran the hurdles in, I think it was like 14.6 or something like that. So I was slow.
Thank you.
Has everybody here heard of Paul Warfield? Paul Warfield is a Hall of Famer football player from Ohio, and I was from Michigan. He and I, we competed against each other in high school, against each other in college. I went to Iowa, and he went to Ohio State, and we competed against each other in pro football I played 16 years. So you can become great friends with people that you are in competition with.
Okay, and thank you, Rhodes, and John Marshall will come back to you in just a moment. Now, Mr. Krause, if I can chime in a question here for you. You talked, something about you keep sharing a lot about your parents and the structure and that they put in your life. Now, I'm sure, with divorce rates at 50, 60%, whatever they are, there's probably a lot of folks that are tuning in that might be from divorced families that maybe don't have necessarily that backbone that you had, in your life. What advice can you offer these students of how to, if they don't have that backbone at home, where they should seek that support?
Very good question. I think that the students, if they're having some problems, I don't care what it is, any kind of a problem, and Jerry, you mentioned it, it doesn't matter. I think that you can find some support in your schools, whether it's teachers or the principal or the superintendent, or you could find go to Big Brothers or little, something like that, or the YMCA. And I hate to just keep bringing this up, but you go to your churches. There's always somebody out there willing to help kids that are willing, to take advice. You always, I think people don't like to be around people that think they know everything, and I don't care if it's a lawyer or a doctor or whatever, or a high school kid or whoever. People like to communicate with people that are like they are. They have, if you have problems, go find somebody that you can talk to. Myself, I don't think I'm any better than anybody else. I put my shoes on the same way and my pants on the same way as anybody else. I have never thought that I was better than anybody else. And if you have a problem, just seek out somebody that you're comfortable with and that you respect.
Thank you, Mr. Krause. And let's go back to John Marshall. If you have a question, go ahead.
What did you learn from sports that you can apply to everyday life?
I need to have you repeat that question.
What did you learn from sports that you can apply to everyday life?
What did I learn playing sports that I can apply to everyday life? Well, I think that sports teaches you to control yourself and to have respect for your other teammates. You have to play sports in a controlled game, so you have teammates. You can't be just out there doing things that you want to do. You have to learn to be a good teammate, a good friend. In sports, you have to rely on other people to help you accomplish certain goals and things like that. And I think that's very important in everyday life. You need other people to work with you. You need other people to be your friend. You need other people to help you.
Thank you, John Marshall. And Southside, if you have one, go ahead.
Was football your favorite sport in high school?
No. Was football my favorite sport in high school? No, it was not. I played, well, like I said, I played baseball, basketball, football, and ran track. I was really, my favorite sport was baseball. I wanted to be, just like everybody, I wanted to be a professional athlete. And at that time, baseball was a big part of my life. I lived about 40 miles from Tiger Stadium in Detroit, and I would be down there playing some leagues that the Tigers had for guys that were, I should say, decent baseball players. And we would shag fly balls for the opposing teams as they came into Detroit to play against the Tigers, or we would shag fly balls during bat practices and stuff like that. And that was a great opportunity. Then when the Tigers were out of the stadium and playing on a road trip, we would have our own league right there at Tiger Stadium. So baseball was a big part of my life. When I was a sophomore in college, I made All-American as a baseball player in college. My next football career, I dislocated and separated my right shoulder. That was before the time that they did all the operations, and that ended my baseball career. And so I turned to football and was good enough to play football.
Okay,
Any other questions, sir?
Oh, go ahead.
How was it playing for the Minnesota Vikings?
How was it playing for the Minnesota Vikings? Well, it was fabulous. We had a great coach and a guy named Bud Grant. We had very, very good football teams. In 12 years with the Vikings, we won 10 Central Division championships. So that's not a bad record. Went to 4 Super Bowls. We didn't win a Super Bowl. We got beat every Super Bowl, and that's still a bad thing in my throat, I guess. But we got there 4 times. We just didn't win. The sun came up the next morning, and life went on.
You know, there's a great lesson in that, though. I mean, what do you have to say to these students that, you know, when those Super Bowls that you guys lost doesn't mean you guys didn't work as hard as the opposing team. These students that maybe work real hard to get an A on the test and they get a B or even a C, or, you know, we don't always go on to get an A on the test. We don't always go on to win the Super Bowl. Not everybody gets into the Hall of Fame. What do you have to say to those students about that if they don't quite get what you'd say maybe the greatest outcome, I guess you could say? What do you have to say to those students?
Well, you know, when we lost 4 Super Bowls, I mean, it wasn't fun. But you have to learn to accept it and go on. You have to continue on with your life, no matter what it is. You may flunk a test in high school or something, and you got, you know, the next time you just got to try to say, hey, I'm going to do better the next time. Well, 4 straight losses, you know, everybody doesn't get to go to a Super Bowl. And we just couldn't, we had no control over it, I guess. It was one of those things that just wasn't supposed to be. We were destined to be 4 losses and 4 Super Bowls, but that didn't take away the greatness of our football team.
And even now, you guys will see in the highlight films or anything like that, if you watch NFL Network or something like that, they start talking about especially the greatest defenses of all time. You might have heard the Purple People Eaters or some of those names thrown around. Those Viking teams are still, even though they didn't win, they were respected. It's a word that Mr. Krause throws around a lot of times. And in his responses that you've heard, they're still respected as one of the greatest teams of all time, even though they didn't win the Super Bowls. To play in 4, and as you saw or heard, they won 5 NFL championships, and he said 10 out of 12 years or 13 years you guys won the Central Division?
10 out of 12 years that we won.
Yeah, 10 out of 12 years. So there you go. So let's go back to John Marshall. If you have another question or two, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Hold on, sir.
Do you think dirty players should be included in any Hall of Fame for any sport? This includes people who have taken performance-enhancing drugs, even when some were legal, or players involved in questionable hits?
Interesting.
Great question.
Very interesting. A dirty player should not be involved in professional sports. The enhancing drugs have no place for in sports. Period. The bounty on was just found out in New Orleans has no place in professional sports. I personally think that the coaches, even the head coach, should be suspended from sports because that has no place in sports. When I played, football was probably a little rougher than it is today because you can hit guys to the head, you could hit them with elbows, you could do a lot of things that you can't do now. But dirty football, back then it was known that if you were a dirty football player, pretty soon, sooner or later, somebody from an opposing team was going to take a shot at you. We kind of cleaned up our own game. So dirty football really has no place in the sport today.
And that's a great question. And if you think about it, though, I mean, if you guys cheat to get an A on the test, or to excel in football or whatever, I mean, really, at the end of the day, when you reflect back, are you really going to be proud of that accomplishment, knowing that you had to do something that, to, I don't want to say, cheat your way through it? I mean, so to speak. I'll go back to, we talked about the 4 Super Bowl losses. I would rather have worked hard and lost 4 than maybe not worked as hard and cheated and won 4. You know what I'm saying? Because when you look back, you're going to know that you gave everything you had. And that goes back again, it's going back to these 6 core pillars that you guys are studying: the trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. So everything we're sharing here. I'm sorry.
Let me add one thing to that. I would never point out a specific team or anything like that. We lost 4 Super Bowls. But I know some of the teams that we lost to, some of the guys were on, enhancement drugs that we were playing against. Like you say, I would rather be on the team that lost than on the team that was cheating.
Exactly. Let's go to New York again. Elmira, Southside.
How important do you feel accountability is on and off the field?
I didn't get the last part of the question.
How important do you feel accountability is on and off the field?
Accountability on and off the field? Well, if you're going to be a person of good character, accountability is one of the main things that you should protect. You have to be accountable for everything that you do on and off the field. If you're going to cheat, it's going to find you out. If you're going to play dirty, that's going to find you out. If you're going to leave school and go do something that you're not supposed to be doing, that will generally find you out too. So, yeah, accountability is one of the biggest things that you can do in your life. You have to treat other people like you want to be treated. And if you're going to do something that is not legal or not right, you don't have the accountability that you should have.
And if you think about it, if you think about it in football terms, as a quarterback, let's say you're on the offensive line, you're accountable to protect the quarterback to the best of your ability. And if you don't study, if you don't prepare, if you don't do the things to get yourself in position to do that, obviously there's going to be a negative impact there. Your quarterback might get sacked a few times throughout the game. But that's the same thing in the business world here. I'm accountable to our entire staff here. Same thing at home. I'm accountable to my family. If I say I'm going to be there and be there at this certain time, I should be there and be there at that certain time. So accountability, as you said, on and off the field is so crucial. Rhodes, do you guys have another question if you want to go ahead?
In the NFL, what was the toughest team you played against?
In the NFL, what was the toughest team I played against? Whatever team we were playing that Sunday, really. We had some great rivalries. We were in the Central Division. It was called the Black and Blue Division. We played against Detroit, Green Bay, Chicago. We played against those teams twice a year, and it was always a tough game against all of them. But you take your better teams, the Dallas Cowboys or your Pittsburgh Steelers. They were our Miami Dolphins. They are always well coached, and you talk about accountability or people that the integrity thing, and the good coaches demand that you have the accountability, you have the good characters on your football team. If you don't, you're going to be on the losing side. The teams that really make the least mistakes mentally are the teams that are probably going to win the football games. Or I can say that in business too. If you make the least mistakes in business, you're probably going to be a good business. Or if you make if you make the least mistakes in high school, you're going to get the best grades. So if your coaches on athletic teams put 5 guys out there in basketball, and those 5 guys don't make a mistake, you're going to be in that game. And likewise any other sport.
And I see we have about 10 minutes left, so we'll go through one more round. But before we do that, let me ask you a question, Mr. Krause. Out of those 6 pillars, and I kind of have a hunch which one you might go with, but out of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship, those 6 core pillars, which one do you think is the most important to a person?
Well, to me, I think the most important pillar is respect. Because with respect, the other ones come. If you have the respect of everybody on your football team or in the classroom or in business or whatever, you're going to have good character. You're going to hit all the other pillars. If I'm playing a football game and I have the respect of my teammates, I have the respect of my opponents, then they know that they're in for a tough time. And my teammates know that they can account, or I can account for myself on the football field. So if an opposing quarterback is going to throw the ball 40 yards down the field, my defensive lineman knows that I'm going to be back there. And that's accountability. They know that I'm going to be accounted for taking that long pass away from the opposing team. So, and that all comes in with the respect that you have with your teammates, with your coaches, and everybody else concerned with your football team.
Thank you, Mr. Krause. And let's go back to John Marshall. If you have a last question, go ahead. One more.
Yeah, I wanted to know how was famous life in your prime days, and who do you think is doing a good job in NFL today?
How the life is being a celebrity or
yeah,
famous, pretty much.
Famous.
And who do you think is doing good in the NFL today?
Okay, to be famous, some people do it differently than others. I respect a guy like Tim. I respect a guy like Tim Tebow because he is famous. He doesn't overdo it. My football coach was Bud Grant, and when somebody would score a touchdown, he wouldn't let him dance. He wouldn't let him spike the ball. He wouldn't let him do anything. He said, "Act like you've been there before." And I respect that. I'm not for one. If I every time I score or got an interception, if I danced around or something like that, my teammates would have probably hit me over the head, and because we don't need that. The respect that you get for being a good player and not being a flamboyant guy is, I think, much better. The guys that are doing it today are the guys that go out and do their job, and do it every day, every play, and they act like they're professionals and that they've done it before. I'm not going to name one player because I respect Tim Tebow a lot, but there's a lot of other great players out there that act accordingly too, just like professionals.
And I think one in Minnesota, I don't see Adrian Peterson, even though he's one of the best running backs in the NFL, I don't see him showboat too much. I think he gets up and goes back to the huddle afterwards and gets ready to run for another 5 or 6 yards too. So, I think.
Yeah, you picked out a good one there. Adrian Peterson is probably the best running back in football today, and he'll score a touchdown, hand the ball to the official, and go back to the huddle, like you say. That's being very professional. And sometimes a guy, I've seen guys that are defensive backs, I watch them all the time, and they'll make a tackle, and then they'll get up and stand over the guy and kind of wolf at the guy, but yet they're probably down 20 points. And they're losing the game, yet he's made a decent play and he's wolfing. Well, that doesn't go over too well with the guys that he's playing against or for.
Yeah, that's a good sign to you students. Someone that's got more concern for themselves when they do the game. Obviously, if they're still talking after being down. But let's go south side.
Hello. What character qualities do you believe it takes to be successful in all areas of life?
What does it take being successful?
Or
all
character
qualities? Well, every quality that we've got, trustworthiness, respect. Here I've got responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. It takes all of those to be success. And if you fail in one of them or two of them or whatnot, it's going to affect what you do the rest of your life. But you have to be as good a person and try to take all of these things, all the pillars, into account the rest of your life. You've got to be somebody that is respected, is accountable for what you do. You have to treat people like yourselves in that room. You have to respect every one of them, and they have to respect you. And if you're not accountable for what you're doing, somebody's going to find out about it. You have to take all these pillars and say, hey, I am going to earn the respect of everybody that I come in contact with. And if you do that, you're going to be a success.
That's great advice. Great advice. Let's go. Last question of the program. So we got a couple minutes left. James Rhodes.
Yes, my name is Ernie Harris. I'm the linkage coordinator here at James Rhodes. And while I don't have a question, I'd like to tell Paul that we really appreciated him sharing with us his life as an example of things we can learn by. The bell just rang, and we got to get to class. But
right,
so
Ernie,
again, we thank you.
I appreciate it, and I hope your students enjoy it and get something out of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. there's a sign of accountability. They got to be at class, and they're going to be there on time. So great example of that in the classroom right now. But Mr. Krause, do you guys have any last, or Mr. Krause, do you have any last remarks that you would like to share with these students about? Obviously, respect is at the forefront of what your message was here today. Obviously, surrounding yourself with positive people. Anything else you'd like to share with these students? Remind all the schools, keep your mics muted for the time being.
Well, I would first of all just like to thank the kids for their attention and everything, and I hope that I touched on something that could help them throughout the rest of their lives. And I hope that if some of them have a problem, they go to somebody and say, hey, I need a little help here. And because we all need help. There's not a perfect person out there. And so I think that if everybody realizes that they need the respect of other people, but they have to give respect, and they should seek the help that they need to get them through their lives.
Well, Mr. Krause, on behalf of the Hall of Fame, from our executive director, Steve Perry, and a lot of the guys here, Dave Montz and Joe Horgan, and everybody else on our board, first and foremost, I know you are a busy man as county commissioner and amongst other things, and thank you for taking time out of your morning to share a great message with these students. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of all those folks. Students, if you can join me for just a second and unmute your microphones and join me in saying thank you and a warm round of applause to Hall of Famer Paul Krause.
Jerry, thank you very much, and the students very much. And I if I can just help one person today, it's worth it. And I think that everybody has to realize that just to treat everybody like they want to be treated.
You're exactly right. And if we all just help one person, this world will be a great place that we live in. It already is, but it'll be even better. So thank you again, Mr. Krause. Thank you to all the schools for tuning in. Thank you, the wonderful ladies there in Dakota County, for setting things up. I appreciate you. E-Tech Ohio and Columbus. Teachers, students, thank you for everything. And I hope to see you in Canton, Ohio someday. Or visit Dakota County. They have the lowest taxes in the state of Minnesota and all kinds of other stuff. So maybe you'll live there someday. But
and the best commissioners.
So thank you very much, and this concludes our program. Take care.